In this video, I'm going to show you how to create your own notebook of patterns that you've purchased and how to start putting the pattern notes in there and adding images. So the first thing we'll do is in Evernote, we'll go to File, New Notebook, and we'll call this Sample of My Purchase Patterns. And I'm going to choose to make it private for now. If you wanted to change that later on, you could, so you could share it with your customers. But for now, we'll say private and create. And you can see that it's come up down here. So I'm going to click on that and we can start putting notes in there. So let's start by putting in our first note of our pattern. So I'm going to come up to File and say New Note. And it brings up a blank note. The first thing it wants you to do is put the title in, but since I don't always remember that accurately, I'm going to go ahead and click down here a little bit further, and that brings up these menu items where I can insert a photo. So I'm going to navigate to my desktop where I did some sample images, and I'm going to bring in a JPEG of a pattern that I recently designed. And I can hit return. You can see where the cursor is over here on the right. If I hit return, I can put in another file of what that pattern actually looks like in repeat. And I'm going to show you in a little bit how to create these sort of images on your own computer. So let's include that. Now I've got my name. I can go ahead and put in JBKGA Hugs and Kisses Trimmable. And I'll talk more about what these trimmables are in a future program. And then I can start putting in my tags. So I can come up here, click to add tags, and remember we talked about the A space tags are the pattern types, and this one is a trimmable. It's not an edge to edge. So I'm going to put trimmable, hit return, and then B space. This is one of those that's kind of a little hard to say what theme it is, but let's go with maybe juvenile and hit return, and then B space again. How about maybe whimsical? So add as many as you want, hit return, and then Z space, remember, is the pattern designer. And so since I designed this one, I'm going to put my own name, and also that it's available from us at Jukebox Quills. Let me get over here and do Z space Jukebox Quills. So just add as many as you want to that. So now it is tagged. Another thing you can do is if you have the paid version, you can go ahead and attach the files. And so I'm going to go down here and say attach again, and I can actually navigate into the zip file that I had and put my PAT in there if you want. And finally, as you saw last week, I usually put the location of the file. So if you weren't actually attaching the file because you didn't have the paid version, say maybe my pattern thumb drive or wherever you keep it, just so you have that information. So that's our first note. That's it. Super easy. And experiment, play around with it, but you can just continue adding new notes for as long as you want, for as many patterns as you own. Another way that you can get images to put into your notes would be to go to the pattern designer's website. I'm on my own website here, and you can hover over the image that you're purchasing or have purchased, right click and copy the image. And then if you go back into Evernote, let's do that. We're going to create a new note, and I can again click down lower and right click, paste, and it will drop the image in for you, and then you can follow the rest of the steps we just talked about. I'm going to show you a couple different ways to get images of the patterns in Mach 3 so that you can place them into your Evernote notes. So the first one is that I'm going to go ahead and drag a pattern onto the screen. And I put it over here in the white area rather than on the grid. I wish you could hide the grid, so you could just pull that over, but you can't. So put it here on the white area, maybe zoom in on it. And you're going to go to the Windows icon in the start here and scroll down to the Snip and Sketch program. And I'm going to right click on that and say, go to the More tab and say pin this to the taskboard, so, or the taskbar. That's going to put it down here in my tray so I can access it a lot easier. So click on that first, and then here it is. And when I pull that up, it gives me directions on how to create an image. So press Windows logo key plus Shift plus S to snip what's on your screen without starting Snip and Sketch. So I'm going to minimize that. Press the Windows logo, the Shift and S, and I get these two crosshairs, or this crosshair, and I'm going to marquee around that pattern. And you'll see it pop up down here in the corner. Now when I click on that, it brings it up and allows me to save it. So if I go to the save icon here, click on that, it goes to the defaults to the picture file that's on my PC. And so that I'm going to be fine with that. And I'm actually going to rename it JB Chain Links. So I'll overwrite what's on there. And save that. So we'll replace what was there. So that's one way of getting an image. Go ahead and close out of there. And using that same tool, I can also go ahead and set up an edge to edge and show my customer how it's going to look when this pattern is nestled on a quilt. So I'm going to use trim. It works better with this type of a pattern that doesn't fit nicely within the edges of a quilt. Say generate. And then on this particular pattern, I take a negative row gap. So I'm just going to click that until I'm happy with how those sort of nestle in. So that looks good to me. So I'll say accept. And now let's do another Windows icon, Shift S. Gives me the crosshair. I'm going to marquee around that to show the customer what it looks like in a quilt. Save. And we'll call this one JB Chain Links Repeat. And save that. So I've got those two ready for my Evernote notebook. Okay, the second way that you can save an image of one of your patterns is to go to File, Print Patterns, and then we'll try to scroll down to that same pattern. Let's see. So it's here, and I'm going to highlight it. And then you're going to come down here to the bottom where it says Save as Image. So I'm going to click on that. Now it wants to put it, actually, it puts it on the C drive under Program Files. This is the default ABM software, Autopilot, Data, Projects. That's where the default is, and that's kind of a deep dig when you want to get the image. So I'm going to go ahead and reselect that picture folder that's on my PC that the other image is defaulted to, and we're going to call this Jukebox Chain Links Edge to Edge, and I'll call it 2 so it's different, and then I'm going to say save, and so it'll save to that folder. Let's go back and take a look at that. So I'm going to go to my File Explorer, go to the picture folder, and there it is as the chain link 2. So that's 2 different ways to get images out of Mach 3. I want to remind you to every now and then sync your notebook with the cloud, and you can do that by going to File and then Sync, or you can click on this little icon that's right here of the 2 little arrows. So either one will sync, and don't wait too long to do that. I try to do it every time I'm in Evernote. The next thing I want to show you how to do is how to share notes or notebooks. So you can come within the note, you can come to the share icon on the note, send it to an email address and add a message. Maybe this is a good pattern for your quilt, and then go ahead and send them a note. But let's go ahead and close that, and I want to show you how to share your notebook. You're only able to do this with the paid version, but if you build a big enough notebook of all the patterns that you have on your system, you might want to share it with your customers. So make sure that you're in the notebook itself over here. So I click on that and I can say share notebook. And you can, at this point, say shared, type in a name. I'll send this to my husband. And click on the name down here. This is your permissions. And so I don't want him to mess up my notebook. So I'm going to click on that and say that he can only view it. I'm not going to let him edit it. If you have maybe an employee that you want to be able to edit it, you can change that they can edit and view. So let's just leave it as view and say done. And he'll be sent a notification that he can download, or basically if he's got Evernote downloaded already, he can go ahead and accept the invitation and see my notebook. Another program that we use all the time in our quilt business is a program called Trello, Trello. And it's also a free program that you can download. We use it for sort of project management. And so this is a sample board that I've set up. You can think of it as like a bulletin board that has rows of post-it notes in different lines. And so to create a new board, you go to boards, and if I scroll all the way down at the bottom, I can create a new board, which is what I did to create the sample quilt board. And so once you have a board, you can put in these lists, or what these columns are called. So we have a column called customer quilts that have been dropped off, and then maybe a group of commission quilts. We do a lot of t-shirt quilts from start to finish. Quilting in progress, and then needing binding or label, and ready for pickup. So these are just the different categories. And then I could add another list if I wanted. Maybe we call this one needs photography. And you can drag these lists around. And so if I want to put the needs photography before the ready for pickup board, I can move it over here, and it reorders the list that I have. So let's take a look at a customer quilt that came in. So if I click on the note, it brings up the customer name, and then we do a description of the quilt, like double wedding ring. This one's going to be custom. It was dropped off August 21st. We always put the dropped off date, and then you can put in due dates. So I have that here. It's September 10th is what I had picked up. So I'll save that, and that will give you a due date here. You can also trigger it to set reminders to let you know before the quilt is due, so you can make sure that you have it ready for the customer. So you can get as complicated with this as you want. You can assign different labels to it. You can cause it to trigger a reminder, be emailed to somebody, but basically we're going to keep this pretty simple for now. So these are the quilts that have dropped off. If for some reason I need to bump one up in the queue, I can just drag it up and put it above the other ones that have come in. Once a quilt is on the machine, we can just drag it to the quilting in progress. And then maybe after that is quilted, we can say that it needs photography, move it over here. And when it's ready for pickup, it goes into this. And then when the quilt is picked up, I can right click on that and actually archive that card. And so it just goes into a place where it's saved, and I can go back and access it if I need to. But this has just been a super little program to keep us organized and kind of let us have a heads up on things that are coming up that are due. Here's a couple other apps or programs that we use that we really like, and one is called LastPass.com, and that's a great place to store all of the different passwords that you have for all your different sites. We talked about storing your recipes last week in Evernote, but another great option for that was recommended by my friend Lisa Nap in South Dakota is the Paprika app, so you might want to take a look at that. It's a great place to not only store the recipes, but it generates shopping lists and does all kinds of other awesome things. Good for quilters with little time. And finally, since a lot of us spend a lot of time on custom quilts where we're standing at the machine, there's some great programs to sort of keep your brain stretched. The Great Courses Plus is awesome to watch while you're quilting, and Goodreads provides a kind of customized recommendations for books for you based on your reading history and your likes. And then Lisa also recommended recently Scribed, which is an awesome website that you subscribe to for, I think it's about $10 a month, that gives you unlimited downloads of both Audible and books for your Kindle. So some great resources if you're a reader like we are. I hope that there's some good pointers in here for you, and we'll be anxious to hear your feedback. And we look forward to seeing you in the next class.